what is going to happen the day that the Bible says every believer will stand before the judgment seat of Christ. You know that? It has nothing to do with our salvation, whether we're going heaven or hell. That's already been decided. You've received forgiveness. You've received the grace of God. You've come into the family of God. That issue's been settled. And yet the Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 that there's going to come a day when every single believer is going to stand before the judgment seat of Christ, and our works are going to be judged. Nothing to do with heaven or hell. And you're like, well, what's that going to be like? I heard someone said it kind of like this. You're standing outside that throne room, the door's locked, probably some really big doors, you know. Heaven's got big doors, ancient looking kind of wood doors. And you're all in line, you're waiting to go in for your turn for the judgment. Dun, 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 dun. Probably some music playing on the outside, you know, some mood music in heaven. It's really loud inside, so you can't really tell what's going on. You don't know if they're screaming or they're shouting for joy. You can't tell because there's angels worshiping and there's noise and thunder and lightning and all this stuff's going on, so you really can't hear what's on the other side. You're standing in line getting ready to be judged. You're standing in line and you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. I love you, Jesus. I really did love you. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Oh, and you turn behind to look to see who's in line with you, and Mother Teresa's right there, and you're like, oh, God. Oh, God. And you open your eyes, and you tap the guy, some old guy in front of you, and he turns around, and it's Billy Graham in front of you. You're like, oh, no, God, oh, God. This is getting worse every day. And the line moves forward, and it moves forward, and then finally it's your turn, and you walk, you know, the giant doors open up, and a big angel, you know, it's not one of those little, I'm talking big angel comes walking, and he has to reach down like this to escort you into the room. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I love you, Jesus. Don't you remember that? I love you. You sit down in front of this place right here. Fire is burning before his throne. Angels worshiping. God seated, established. There's no way out of this. It's not like, you know, you get a bye in a football game or something and you can skip, you know, the next round or you can put this off till next week. There's no escaping this moment. You walk in finally, probably, maybe trembling, and there's a giant chest sitting in front of the throne. And it's probably not going to happen exactly like this, but just go with it. Because the Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 that our works will be burned as through fire, and those things which are wood, hay, and stubble that weren't built on the foundation of Jesus Christ. Everything else that's gold and silver and precious stones carry through to eternity. You see this gigantic box, and you're like, what's inside of there? And you realize it's the pictures of your life. See, God thinks in pictures. It's filled, it's the photo album of your entire life. And an angel comes, that big one, you know, the one that had to reach down. He comes and he takes that thing, and the fire that's before the throne, the Bible says, there was the sevenfold Spirit of God. It's the Spirit of God. And it's like the angel carries your stuff through that fire and sets it down on the other side. And then you get invited by the angel. You kind of walking between the fire torches, you know, and you're trying to make your way through, and you stand, and out of the midst of the glory of the Jasper God, the glory of this God who's on the throne, this one who carries, you say, well, I'm not Jewish. Yes, you got grafted into the vine, by the way, just in case you're wondering. This high priest comes out, and he's got the biggest smile on his face, and he's radiating with joy. I mean, the light is coming out of his face. He's radiating with joy. He's so happy, and you're not sure what he's happy about yet, you know? and he opens, he says, come sit down beside me. And he opens it up, and he pulls out a picture, and he says, you remember this? And you're like, yeah, I remember that one, Jesus. And it's a picture of the day that you walked in divine faith or hope or love, and you didn't back down from that. You held on to what he'd done inside of you, became real outside of you. You walked it out in a situation when with your family, and Jesus is like, I loved when you did this right here. This was amazing. I'm so proud of you, son. I'm so proud of you. And he puts it aside, and you're waiting for the next one. It's like, oh God, yeah, but the next day, remember what happened the next day? And he pulls out another picture, and it's like another one. It's like the time that you decided that you weren't going to quit in the middle of a difficult situation. You had hope. You expected God to come through for you. And he says, man, I'm so glad that you did this day. I'm so proud of you. And he reaches in for another one, and he keeps pulling these pictures out. And you realize that you're like, Jesus, where's the bad stuff? Where's the bad stuff? Is it like at the bottom of the thing here? He's like, what bad stuff? I don't know what you're talking about. Because the cross dealt with your sin, and the only thing that comes before him, having passed through that fire, is everything that you did out of a heart of love and obedience, out of the heart of faith and grace and honor and humility. Every one of those things you're going to celebrate before the King who dwells in the midst of that throne, because he's a high priest who's paid for your sin, and he's coming out to honor you. And see, a lot of us are afraid of that day. The Bible says in John that fear comes from a fear of punishment. Because perfect love casts out all fear. Because fear has to do with punishment, the expectation of punishment ahead before the throne of God. And God said, there's not punishment here. There's honor. And whether the reason that we need to stay focused on this place right here that we're talking about is so important. So, man, what if in your life you were a baseball player, professional, and when you got up to bat, you could never strike out? I mean, you got up to bat. They could throw 100 pitches and miss every one, and you still get to hit again. And you get finally on that 101st pitch, pow, you knock that thing right out of the park. Man, every single swing, you'd be like, all right, dude, here we go. I mean, wham, you'd be trying as hard as you could every single time because you knew you couldn't fail. We spend our lives thinking, I'm going to fail. I don't know if I should try this, and I might make a mistake, and God might get mad at me, and all this kind of stuff, and God's inviting us to dwell in a place that he's saying, go for it, go for it, go for it. I'm going to remember every try. I'm going to remember every time you did it in faith. I'm going to bring before your remembrance every good work that you did that I prepared from the foundation of the world. Man, it would change our lives the way we worked. It would change our zeal. It would change the way that we moved and lived and had our being in God in this world. These colors, as abstract as it may seem, are an invitation. Beauty creates desire inside of us. It's an invitation for us to draw near to the God who's already said, I love you, I've paid the price, and I want to honor even the things that you've done throughout your life that have honored my name.